Did you know that behind Spyro's colorful worlds and gem collecting adventures, the trilogy actually has some surprisingly deep and memorable villains? Most people remember Spyro as the little purple dragon smashing through levels, but the villains who stand in his way are a big part of what makes these games so fun and replayable. From a petty Gnorc who got his feelings hurt, to a tiny rage-filled sorcerer, to a genuinely dark and ambitious witch, the Insomniac trilogy gave us three very different main antagonists. Today we're breaking down every major villain from the original Spyro trilogy, looking at their personalities, motives, boss fights, how they hold up in the 2018 Reunited trilogy, and some fun hypothetical lore about why they might have turned evil. All visuals in this video are original AI-generated art inspired by the series. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you love classic PlayStation games and deep dives into 90s and early 2000s gaming, you're in the right place. Let's start with the very first villain we ever met, Gnasty Gnorc. Gnasty Gnorc is introduced right at the beginning of Spyro the Dragon as a powerful Gnorc who was banished from the Dragon Realms years earlier. When two elder dragons make rude comments about him during a TV interview, Gnasty overhears everything and snaps. He casts a massive spell that traps almost every dragon in Crystal and turns their gem horde into an army. What makes Gnasty interesting is how petty he feels on the surface. He's not some grand evil overlord with a master plan. He's basically a big green bully who got his feelings hurt. But here's a fun hypothetical. What if Gnasty was once an outcast among both dragons and Gnorcs? Maybe he was mocked his whole life for being different, and that one TV interview was just the final straw. In Reignited, he looks much more intimidating with better animations and lighting, but he keeps that same goofy, over-the-top personality. His boss fight is simple but satisfying. Next up is my personal favorite, Ripto from Spyro 2. Ripto's Rage. Ripto is a tiny, angry sorcerer who absolutely hates dragons. He invades the world of Avalar and causes chaos across multiple realms. What makes Ripto stand out is how much personality he has. He's short-tempered, constantly yelling at his minions Crush and Gulp, and he has some genuinely funny moments mixed with real menace. We have to give special mention to Crush and Gulp here. These two are Ripto's dim-witted but loyal henchmen, and they're hilarious. Crush is the big, slow, club-wielding brute, while Gulp is the massive, dinosaur-like creature that literally swallows orbs and spits them back at you. They're not the brightest, but they add so much charm and comedy to the game. Their boss fights feel like giant kaiju battles, and in Reignited they look even more ridiculous and fun. Why does Ripto hate dragons so much? The game doesn't fully explain it, which leaves room for speculation. Maybe Ripto was once humiliated or overpowered by a dragon in his past, or perhaps he's terrified of their raw magical potential because he's small and physically weak. What if his entire motivation is deep-seated insecurity? He gets more development than Gnasty with multiple boss fights, and his final multi-phase battle is still one of the most memorable. In Reignited, his design is sharper and more expressive. Then we have the Sorceress in Spyro, Year of the Dragon, and she's easily the darkest villain of the trilogy. The Sorceress is a powerful witch who sends her apprentice Bianca to steal all the new dragon eggs. Her goal? Bathe in dragon eggs to gain immortality. That's pretty cold-blooded. Unlike Gnasty's pettiness or Ripto's rage, she feels genuinely threatening and calculated. Hypothetical lore question. What drove her to such extremes? Was she once a powerful sorceress who felt her magic fading with age? Or did she witness something in the Forgotten Worlds that made her fear death above all else? Her heel turn on Bianca and the final boss fight in her fortress feel like a true series climax. Reignited makes her look even more imposing. Of course, we can't forget the Rhinox and other bosses. The Rhinox are the sorceress's main foot soldiers. Big, rhino-like creatures that come in all sorts of elemental flavors, fire, ice, etc. They're not the smartest enemies, but they swarm the levels and make exploration feel dangerous. Then there are the various level-specific bosses and enemies, everything from giant birds to mechanical contraptions, that add variety and personality to each world. So let's rank them quickly. Most evil? The Sorceress wins easily. Bathing in stolen dragon eggs? Sheesh, seems dark. Most fun personality? Ripto takes it for me. He's a little guy with a big attitude, and his duo with Crush and Gulp is comedy gold. Most memorable design and fight? Gnasty Gnorc still holds up surprisingly well. The OG baddie. Overall, I think Ripto edges out as the best villain of the trilogy because he gets the most screen time and feels like a true archenemy. But here's a fun hypothetical to end on. One that I've been daydreaming about ever since I replayed the Reignited Trilogy. What if all three main villains somehow teamed up for one massive revenge plot against Spyro? Picture this crossover nightmare unfolding across the Dragon Realms, Avalar, and the Forgotten Worlds. Gnasty Gnorc, still bitter from his original banishment and that fateful TV roast, brings the raw brute force and an endless army of Gnorcs. He's the tank of the operation, smashing through barriers, forging weapons from stolen gems, and turning entire landscapes into chaotic junkyards filled with his crystal-powered minions. His role? Pure muscle and numbers. He'd be the one yelling orders like, "No more mocking Gnasty," while his Gnorc hordes swarm Spyro from every direction, recreating that overwhelming first-game invasion but on a trilogy-wide scale. Ripto, the tiny terror with the massive ego, supplies the chaotic magic and his loyal, if dim-witted henchmen, Crush and Gulp. Imagine Ripto zipping around on his little hoverboard, hurling spells that warp reality, while Crush clubs everything in sight, and Gulp swallows orbs only to spit them back as explosive projectiles. Ripto's contribution would be pure personality-driven mayhem, constantly arguing with Gnasty over who's really in charge, throwing tantrums that accidentally supercharge the battlefield, and creating multi-phase boss arenas that mix his sorcerer tricks with Avalar's wild environments. His deep-seated dragon hatred would fuel the whole alliance, turning every encounter into a personal vendetta. Then the Sorceress elevates everything to truly dark, high-stakes territory. She brings the calculated ambition, immortality-granting dark spells, and her Rhinoc forces, now perhaps enhanced by Gnasty's gems and Ripto's magic. She'd be the strategic mastermind in the shadows, manipulating the other two when they bicker, setting traps that drain Spyro's powers, and pursuing her ultimate goal of eternal youth by any means necessary. Her fortress could serve as the final stronghold, filled with hybrid enemies that blend all three villains' aesthetics. Gem-armored Rhinocs with Gnorc weapons and Sorceress runes. The internal drama would be half the fun. Gnasty's pettiness clashing with Ripto's short fuse while the Sorceress plays them both like pawns. Maybe even a mid-alliance betrayal tease where Bianca tries to redeem herself again. Spyro wouldn't just face three separate boss fights. He'd tackle an evolving gauntlet. Early levels could swarm with mixed Gnorc Rhinoc patrols, mid-game kaiju battles featuring powered-up Crush and Gulp, and late-game puzzles requiring you to exploit their rivalries, like luring Ripto into blasting Gnasty by accident. This villain alliance would be the ultimate test for the little purple dragon, forcing him to use everything he's learned across the trilogy. Glide and glide maneuvers to dodge combined attacks, supercharged power-ups stolen from all three factions, and even temporary alliances with old friends like Hunter, Sheila, or the dragons themselves. It could culminate in an epic multi-phase finale where the three bosses fuse their powers in one desperate, over-the-top superform before Spyro's signature flame and charge bring the house down. We never got this in the original games, but man, it would make for an incredible fan-made expansion, a new Reignited DLC, or even a full fourth entry. The personality clashes alone would be comedy gold mixed with serious challenge. What do you think? Who's your favorite Spyro villain? Gnasty Gnorc for his classic bully energy, Ripto for his hilarious rage, or the Sorceress for that cold, calculated menace? Would you want to see them team up in a hypothetical game? Or maybe face off against each other in a villain rumble? And what do you think their real backstories might be if Insomniac ever expanded on them? Drop your wildest theories and dream matchups in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the trilogy's villains and that epic what-if scenario, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more classic PlayStation lore, breakdowns, and hypotheticals. Next time, we might dive into the heroes, side characters, or even plot holes across the series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep chasing those gems and watch out for any suspicious Gnorcs, angry sorcerers, or egg-stealing witches.